John and Noreen Gosch are living with a painful 40-year-old mystery, a mystery that may never be solved. 12-year-old Johnny Gosch vanished from this street corner near Valley High School. The rubber bands from the Des Moines Sunday Register and the wagon he carried the newspapers in, the only evidence he was here.
I still think of Johnny as a 12-year-old. I don't think of him as a 50-year-old adult now. Chances are pretty high that he never will be found, along with lots of other kids. Every time I'm driving, if I see something white in the ditch, my eyes go directly toward it. He was wearing a white sweatshirt, Kim's Academy sweatshirt, apparently, when he was taken. And so that is locked into my brain, that something white out there that I look at all the time. I just would like to have a closure before I die, you know. But you just don't know.
He was kidnapped off the street while doing his paper route, and he was put into what they now call human trafficking.
Noreen believes Johnny was sold into an elaborate underground sex ring, and reports say she claimed he paid a late-night visit to her in 1997 to detail parts of the operation, but left as quickly as he came.
He can't go public. They'll kill him. I vowed that when Johnny was kidnapped, this kidnapping would not go down in the pages of history as just another tragedy that happened to a kid. Every missing child deserves an immediate investigation. What goes through my mind at this point in time, 40 years, what did I miss? What thing would there have been that might have changed the course of the investigation?
I've said before that the Johnny Gosch rabbit hole goes deep, but just on the surface, it's the story of a missing child, a destroyed family, and decades of trauma. This was a timeline breakdown of the missing case of Johnny Gosch, starting with the original news story about his disappearance and ending with a composite sketch of what he would look like today. And it is quite unnerving how it seemed like the local authorities had their foots on the throat of this case from the very beginning, almost refusing to treat it as anything other than an emergency. Check this shit out.
Police are looking for this boy, 12-year-old Johnny Gosch. He's the son of Mr. and Mrs. John Gosch of 1004 45th Street in West Des Moines. The boy was last seen this morning about 6 o'clock as he began his paper route in front of Valley United Methodist Church at 42nd and Ashworth.
That was September 5th, 1982. 40 years later, Johnny Gosch is still missing. The case remains unsolved.
At first, West Des Moines police treated the disappearance as an abduction and launched a big search that included several law enforcement agencies. By the end of the first day, police said they no longer believed that it was an abduction, and they started to treat the case as a missing person or runaway incident. 3 days after Johnny's disappearance, reality set in for his parents, John and Noreen Gosch.
Day one was shock that this kind of atrocity could happen. It just doesn't seem like it could happen in your neighborhood 2 blocks from your house. The second day, you'll realize it really is happening. And finally, by today, it's just gripping every single minute of the day, worrying about his safety, whether he's warm, whether he's had food, all of these things that when days go by, you just wonder if he's even going to come back.
A couple of months into the search, investigators had a composite sketch of a man wanted for questioning, but didn't release it to the public or to Johnny's parents. So the Gosches, along with the private investigator they hired, released their own composites in hopes of generating leads.
Our mode of thinking for Thanksgiving Day in this house will not be a negative tone. We'll miss Johnny. There's an empty chair. And anytime the family circle cannot be together, it's bad, it's sad.
As they worked to bring Johnny home, the Gosches also lobbied locally and nationally to raise awareness about missing children. 2 years after Johnny's disappearance, the Iowa legislature passed the Johnny Gosch bill into law, requiring law enforcement to immediately investigate missing child cases.
Then, 3 years later in 1988, the FBI provided a new way to help find Johnny. For the first time, the investigators used face aging technology on a missing person. That technology worked off the last picture taken of Johnny, combining some of his features with those of his parents to create the picture.
I've been thinking, what would it be like if he were brought into the room today? How's he going to have changed? Will he have a beard? Will he, he would be obviously old enough to shave now.
It's 1991. Nebraska prison inmate Paul Bonacci comes forward with a startling claim that a network of pedophiles forced him to help abduct Johnny Gosch. Bonacci was serving time for sexual assault on a child. West Des Moines police never did question Bonacci on their own.
Noreen Gosch was called to testify in his 1999 trial, and that's when she made a bombshell claim of her own, that Johnny visited her in her home 2 years earlier for about an hour.
He told me how he was kidnapped. At first he was so drugged that he didn't know where he was at, but he could then relate some of the names of the people that were around him, that he was able to latch on to names. He told me how they traveled all over the country. They were used for pornography, prostitution, compromising businessmen and politicians. These kids were used in a royal fashion like none of us would ever dream of.
40 years later, Johnny Gosch is still missing.
If Johnny is still alive, he would be 52 years old today. This is what the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children thinks he may look like today.
You see a man with light brown hair, graying at the temples, wrinkles on his face and blue eyes. A stark contrast to the picture on the left of 12-year-old Johnny Gosch frozen in time.
Johnny Gosch, born John David Gosch, November 12, 1969, Des Moines, Iowa. Disappeared September 5th, 1982, age 12, 42nd Street and Mercourt Lane, West Des Moines, Iowa. Status: missing for 43 years, 1 month, and 8 days. John Gosch, born November 12, 1969, disappeared September 5, 1982, was a paperboy in West Des Moines, Iowa, who disappeared between 6 and 7 a.m. on September 5, 1982. He was presumed to be kidnapped. Before the dawn of September 5, 1982, John left his home and began his paper route in West Des Moines, Iowa, a suburb of Des Moines. Although it's custom for him to wake his father to help with the route, the boy took his family's miniature Dachshund, Gretchen, with him that morning. Paper carriers for the Des Moines Register would later report having seen John at the paper drop picking up his newspapers. It was the last sighting of John that could be corroborated by witnesses. Another head boy named Mike observed John talking to a stocky man in a blue two-tone car near the paper drop. Another witness, John Rossi, saw the man in a blue car talking to John and thought something was strange. John told John that the man was asking for directions and asked John to help. John looked at the license plate but could not recall the plate number. He said, "I keep hoping I'll wake up in the middle of the night to see that number on the license plate as sticky as the night and day, but that hasn't happened." John eventually underwent hypnosis, and he told the police some of the numbers that was on the plate from the Warren County. So John walked a block north where his route started. A paperboy noticed that he was being followed by the man. A neighbor heard a door slam and saw a silver Ford Fairmont speed away northwards from where John's wagon was found. John's parents, John and Noreen, began receiving phone calls from customers along their son's route, complaining of undelivered papers. John performed a courtesy search of the neighborhood around 6 a.m. He immediately found John's wagon full of newspapers 2 blocks from their house. John's parents immediately contacted the West Des Moines Police Department and reported their son missing. Noreen, in a public statement, has been critical of what she perceives as a slow reaction time from authorities and the policy at the time that John could not be classified as a missing person until 72 hours had passed. But her estimation, police did not arrive to take her report for a full 45 minutes. Police assumed that John was a runaway, but they changed their assessment and believed that he had been a victim of kidnapping. There turned up little evidence and arrest, no suspects in connection with the case, according to Noreen. A few months after John's disappearance, John was spotted in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when a boy yelled to a woman for help before being dragged off by 2 men. Over the years, several private investigators have assisted John's parents with the search of their son. Among them are Jim Ross, a retired New York police detective, and Ted, a retired chief of the FBI's Los Angeles field office. In 1984, John's photograph appeared alongside that of another Des Moines registered paperboy, Eugene Martin, who had gone missing that year, on milk cartons produced by the Des Moines based on Anderson Eckerson Dairy. John was among the first missing children who had disappeared. So these are the 2 boys who disappeared uh, a little bit after John did. Eugene Martin, he disappeared August 12th, 1984. He was 13. Mark Allen, he disappeared March 29th, 1986, age 13. And both of them boys were in Des Moines, Iowa, when they went missing. Okay, so these are the 2 cases that they're linking him with, because they're trying to figure out how, he went missing. So in 1985, John's mother Noreen received a letter from Robert Herman Meir II, age 19, of Signawa, Michigan. In the letter, which he had signed under the name of Samuel Forbes Dakota, Robert stated that he was a guard in an outlaw motorcycle club at the time of John's disappearance. Robert said Johns was taken to a part of a large child slavery ring operated by the club. According to the FBI, Robert requested form and received $11,000 from John's parents. He additionally requested $100,000 and more, along with a promise to return their son. Wow, he really scammed those parents. Wow. And they never got their son because this man lied. So thank God he got arrested for fraud. So the mother, Noreen, according to her, in 1997 of March, she was awoke around 2:30 a.m. So John's parents divorced in 1993. Hey, they divorced in 1993. So the mother is living by herself around this time period. And she heard a knock on her door. And she said that John, now age 27, accompanied by an unidentified man. Noreen said she immediately recognized her son, who opened his shirt to reveal a birthmark on his chest. We talked about an hour or an hour and a half. He was with another man, but I have no idea who the person was. John would look over to the other person for approval to speak. He didn't say where he is living or where he was going. That doesn't make sense. I see why people are criticizing the mother. In a 2005 interview, she further claimed the night that he came here, he was wearing jeans and a t-shirt and had a coat on because it was March. It was cold and his hair was long. It was shoulder length and it was straight and dyed black. After the visit, Noreen had the FBI create a composite picture she says looked like the now grown Johnny. She self-published a book in 2000, and the book presents her understanding of what her son went through based on the original search of various private investigators and her son's visit. So, why didn't she try to convince her son to stay if that was really her son? I mean, did she see any guns or whatever put to his head? Mm, I don't know. On September 1st, 2006, Noreen reported that she found photographs left at her front door, of which she posted on her website. A color photo was three boys bound and gagged, and she claimed that a black and white photo appears to show 12-year-old John with his mouth gagged, his hands and feet tied, and an apparent human brand on his shoulder. A third photo shows him possibly dead, who may have something tied around his neck. She said that one of the perpetrators in the photo was a man who did something to her son. And then she later said that the first two photos had originated on a website for child pornography. On September 13th, the anonymous letter was mailed to the Des Moines police. So basically, in general, the letter is just saying that someone played a joke on the mother, and the photo is not of her son, but of three boys in Tampa, Florida, about 1970 to 1980. So no charges were filed, no wrongdoing was established, and the detectives on the case was, and this allegation should be easily checked out. So more people playing games on this mother, which is so sad. Uh, so this 21-year-old man named Johnny DeCap said that he helped a man kidnap Johnny, and he described the marks on John. John had a birthmark on his chest, a scar on his tongue, and a burn scar on his lower leg. And the information about the scars have not been publicly made at all. And he described a stammer that John would do when he was upset. But the FBI didn't want to think he was a credible witness because they haven't interviewed him at all. So now his siblings are coming out and saying that he was at home when John disappeared. So now he's lying. Wow, this is crazy. This is so crazy. This is twists and turns all around. Well, I just hope the mother keeps up hope that her son will be found.